In this video, we're going to use the item separator, SCP equals, with two quotes, to reduce the amount of space in our print function. So we're going to use the total purchase project as an example. And for this project, I'm going to ask the user to enter the price of a few items. I'm going to do some calculations. I'm going to calculate the subtotal. I'm going to calculate the tax. I'll do 6%. And then I'll calculate the total of both of those. And then on the screen, I'm going to print what's going to look like a receipt. And I'm going to put a $sign in, and I'm going to make sure that's right next to my dollar amounts. So you can see I already have one line that is typed in on line 4. And notice how I'm using the variable item price. Okay, so this is a legal variable. There's no spacing. The fact that the P is capital in the word price is called camel case, and it's a good system to use when you're working with variables. Notice also I'm using a float. So I decided to go with the float because I am asking for money. Okay, usually when you ask for money or have calculations or output that deal with money, you want to use a float data type. Next, I have the input function, and that's going to allow me to enter this prompt, enter the price of the item, and that'll sit there on the screen waiting for the person to type in the price of the item. Now, I do want to put more than just one value into this program, so I'm going to copy and paste this. So here's a little trick of the trade. So copy and paste. Copy and paste. I'm only going to do 3. But also notice that I do have the same variable 3 times. If you copy and paste any part of your program, that's fine. Okay, that's okay to do. Just make sure that you change the name of the variables. Okay, so this has to be item price 2. This is going to have to be item price 3 because each one has to be unique. Second thing I want to do is get to my calculation section. So I'm going to hit return, and I'm on line 9. And I need to calculate the subtotal. So remember, subtotal needs to start with a lowercase. You want to get in the habit of starting your variables with lowercase. There's my assignment operator. And the variable subtotal, again, is descriptive. So your variables want to follow all the rules. Keep your variables lowercase, and they should be descriptive. So my subtotal is just going to be the sum of my 3 items. So item price plus item price 2 plus item price 3. Next thing I want to do is calculate the tax. And a perfect variable for tax is tax. Okay, it's short, it's descriptive. Again, starting with a lowercase. And the tax is going to be subtotal multiply, so shift 8. And I said 6% at the beginning, so I'm going to do 0.06. So in mathematics, 6% is 0.06. I do not want to type the number 6 here, and I especially do not want to type 6 with a percent symbol because the percent symbol is the modulus operator in Python. So I'll hit return one more time, and I'm on line 11 right now. I'm going to calculate the total of this entire purchase. And again, total is a great variable name. Hit the assignment operator. And what is my total? Well, it's going to be subtotal plus tax. Okay? And that's it. If you want to clean this up a little bit, make sure you don't have too much white space. So on line 7 and 12, and also line 2, that's called white space. And it is something you'd want to get in the habit of putting in your program because it makes it a lot easier to read. It separates the pieces of the program. So I have my input, I have my calculations, and on line 14, I'm going to start my display. So I want this to look like a receipt. So I'm going to do print and subtotal colon, space, dollar sign, and then I'm going to finish off that string. I'm going to type in subtotal, and this is what I need to do in order to get rid of that space in between the dollar sign and my variable value. I need to have SCP equals quote quote and then close that off. Okay, print. Next is tax, dollar sign, tax, and I'm not going to put the SCP there. I want to show you the difference. And the last one would be total. Again, I'm not going to put the SCP here because I want to show you the difference with total. Okay, so there's your three parts. So I have my input, my calculation, and my output. Let's go ahead and run this. So run module, press OK. And on the lower right, notice the output is blue, so we're in the shell now. Enter the price of the item. I'm just going to do 1 for each one. Okay. And then this last one I'm going to do 98. So my subtotal is 100. My tax is $6, and my total is 106. But I want you to take a look at right there. If you look at the dollar sign in the 100, notice how the dollar sign is right next to the 100. It looks a little odd in tax and total because the dollar sign is kind of floating in midair by itself. Well, the reason the dollar sign is right next to the 100 is because I used SCP equals on that line. Okay, so you can see it right there on the left. And in tax and total, I did not use SCP equals. Okay, so I'm going to run this again, and we're going to see if we can eliminate that. So the way we eliminate that is by going to our print function on line 15 and adding SCP equals to single quotes. We'll do that on line 16, adding a third argument, SCP equals two quotes. So this is going to cancel out the automatic spacing. So this is the item separator. Basically what it does, it cancels out the automatic spacing in between the arguments. Okay, so I have my space here. As you saw before, I had a space there because the print function by default puts a space in between arguments. Well, the SCP equals and two single quotes, which is the item separator, is going to cancel that. Okay, so let's run this again. Hit OK. And we'll type in, let's type in 0 and 100 this time. So subtotal is 100, tax is 6, and total is 106.0. Okay, obviously we could format the dollar amounts a little bit better to have 2 zeros, but we'll save that for a future video. This video's purpose was to show you how to get rid of that automatic spacing in between the arguments. So to do that, remember, use SCP equals, which is called the item separator. Until next time.